maximum procedure to do sensible and hopeful, beautiful things. That's all. Harry Seidler. Architecture is a very spectacular form of art. Everything means something different. The little things are substantial. It all ties in with the history of the building. Next time you walk past the building, answer some questions like who designed it? What was their inspiration? What era was the building inspired by? How did the building become what it is today? Today I'm going to talk about the history of architecture in Philadelphia. Within the architecture, I'll talk about the different architecture styles used, along with some of the well-known buildings. When Europeans settled here, they brought over their architectural styles. Walking in Center City, you will find big buildings with flat roofs and Renaissance sculptures and columns. This type of architectural style is called Renaissance architecture. It was originated in Italy and was inspired by the Renaissance time period, which lasted from the 1300s to the 1700s. The Renaissance architecture is my favorite out of all the ones I'll be talking about. It has beautiful art and designs carved into the building. One building that uses the Renaissance architecture style is the Academy of Music. Since I was 5 years old, I would dance at this historical building and not know how significant it was. Being up on the stage is like dancing on a historical timeline, the timeline of how the Academy of Music became the building it is today. The Academy of Music is located on 240 South Broad Street between Locust and Manning Streets. Walking past this building, you may think that it's just an ordinary building. Opened January 26, 1857, the Academy of Music is the oldest concert and opera hall in the United States. Many historical events happened at this academy. 1870, Susan B. Anthony addressed a 2,509 crowd on how women should have rights. 1891, Music from the Nutcracker was conducted by Peter Tchaikovsky. 1900, the century-long performing at the Academy of Music for the Philadelphia Orchestra began. 1942 to 1945, the basement lobby was changed into the stage door canteen. During World War II, more than 2 million United States servicemen and women came to dance, relax, and dine. This was very helpful for them to forget the war. Performers like Abbott and Costello, Frank Sinatra, Duke Ellington, Bette Davis, and Glenn Miller performed at the stage canteen. When you walk into the theater, look up. There's a chandelier that is similar to the one in the Phantom of the Opera. Around the chandelier are illustrations. The illustrations are of nude men, women, and children. They are indistinguishable to the Renaissance paintings in the art museum. I can't speak for anyone else, but performing on that stage wouldn't be the same if the art and the architecture wasn't there. After the Renaissance architecture, the Greek Revival architecture was introduced. 1750 to 1760, the Greek architecture began to move west. The British architect James Stuart took a little trip to Greece with Nicholas Revett in the year of 1751. And Stuart and Revett published a multi-volume Antiquities of Athens. After this, Stuart then got the name of Athenian Stuart. Athenian Stuart designed small buildings with Grecian style. After he died in 1758, the fashionable style he used became very well known. During the 1820s and 1830s, the style moved to England and some of the other European countries. Around 1825 to 1855, the Grecian architecture style moved to America and is well known in Philadelphia. An example of the Greek Revival architecture is the Philadelphia Art Museum. The museum has very beautiful designs on them. My favorite are the sculptures on the triangle roof. Most sculptures I'm used to seeing are very dull and lifeless. The ones at the art museum are very interesting. They remind me of the paintings in the different European countries inside the museum. You can interpret them any way you want, and there is no wrong answer. Another well-known architectural style is the Victorian architecture style. The Victorian architecture style, which originated from Queen Victoria in her reign, which lasted 1837 to 1901. Dollhouse-like buildings with mostly bright colors are Victorian architecture. They have a triangle-shaped roof with a rectangle bottom. You won't find well-known buildings with this style of architecture in Philadelphia. Most row homes are designed with the Victorian architecture style. If you look closely at the buildings, you can see chipped away, distinct designs on the arches. Other buildings that you might find with the Victorian architecture style are churches. The Victorian architecture style is very interesting because you would only think to see this type of architecture in fictional stories. It reminds me a lot of Alice in Wonderland. I think it's the tall, narrow dollhouse shape that reminds me of Alice in Wonderland. One of the first buildings built in the United States with the Victorian architecture style was City Hall. It was designed by John MacArthur Jr. An example of a church with this architectural style is the First Presbyterian Church. The First Presbyterian Church has been established since 1698. The building is made out of stone, and the designs on the building relate both to the architectural style and the religion. These designs are of the Christian cross and the Victorian era. Although buildings in Philadelphia use European architecture styles, we have been inspired by other architecture styles from other parts of the world. The first skyscraper was built in Chicago from 1884 to 1885. Before I start talking about skyscrapers, I should probably tell you the proper definition of one. A skyscraper is a very tall building that has to be at least 40 to 50 stories high. It wasn't always like this. Before the late 20th century, the average number of stories for skyscrapers was 10 to 20 stories. Over time, different cities, including Philadelphia, adopted the architecting style. The architecting style was very well known in Center City. An example of a skyscraper in Philadelphia is the 1818 Market Street building. As you can tell from the name, it is located on 1818 Market Street. On the street is a 40-story building. It was opened in 1974 on January 1st. Just like most skyscrapers, this building is used for business purposes. If the 1818 Market Street skyscraper wasn't enough, another example of a well-known skyscraper is One Liberty Place Deck Observation. One Liberty Place Deck Observation has 47 floors, which is equal to 14 stories. Although it is not 40 to 50 stories, it is considered a skyscraper. After 2 years of construction, the building is located in West Philadelphia and opened November 28, 2015. An amazing architect, Helmut John, designed One Liberty Place observation deck. In 1999, the sale price was $250 million. You may have rode past this building and not have known what it was used for, besides a beautiful sight to observe. So I'll tell you. On the 57th floor, you can get a full 360 view of our amazing city of Philadelphia. You can see sites like the Ben Franklin Parkway, City Hall, the Stadium Complex, the Ben Franklin Bridge, University City, and a whole lot more. Skyscrapers have spread through the entire world. It seems over decades, different places all over the world have been competing for the tallest skyscraper in the world. The taller they get, the more unique and, well, different they get. Architecture is the one branch of art that is talked about the least. It's amazing how someone could design a building that is safe enough for hundreds and even thousands of people, and at the same time, make it so beautiful. The designs that are carved into the building aren't just for looking, but they mean something important. For example, City Hall. In the entrance, there are 4 corners which represent the 4 corners of the world. The 4 corners of the world are East, South, North, and West. East represents Asia, South represents Africa, North represents Europe, and lastly, West represents Sweden. In another entrance, there was a sculpture of a woman with a blindfold on that represents the saying, "Our justice is blind." Architecture is such a beautiful thing. The best ones originated in Europe. Over time, we modernized them, and now they look better than ever. When settlers came to America, they brought their beautiful architecture styles. The Renaissance was brought to Philadelphia from Italy. The Academy of Music is an example of this style. City Hall was one of the first buildings with the Victorian architecture in the United States. This style has a tall, narrow dollhouse shape. The one style of architecture that I talked about today that originated in the United States is the skyscraper style. I hope I was able to teach you something that you didn't know before about architecture and its history in Philadelphia. In the words of Frank Gehry, architecture should speak of its time and place, but yearn for its timelessness.